Where do you get your local Cambridge news?
To be honest, I don't really get a lot of it. Probably mostly from the Boston Globe and the Weekly Dig, if anything. But mostly word of mouth and Facebook, if I'm being honest.
I don't.
By word of mouth and the neighbors.
How accurate would you say that is?
It's very accurate in our neighborhood.
I get it mostly from working in the service industry and talking to people who come in to where I work. You know, I guess I do look at boston.com once in a while. It'll like pop up on my phone.
From the occasional emails from Craig Kelly from the Wellington, Harrington neighborhood, whatever that thing is called.
Next door.
Next door, yeah, that. And just I pick it up from people. That's about it.
So the gossip.
Basically, the gossip.
I read Cambridge Day. I'm on the Cambridge Port listserv.
I get it from Wicked Local, and then some of it I guess from Boston.com, which does include Cambridge too.
CCTV, Cambridge Chronicle, and some Cambridge news comes my way from NECN.
Usually people, talking to people. Not so much. Definitely not reading the news. I don't do a whole lot of reading the news, and I don't watch much of the news at all. Mostly just talking to people.
Honestly, I don't really seek it out myself. I usually wait till my friends post it on Facebook.
Okay, we get our news by reading the Chronicle and by people gossiping about what's going on in the city.
Police radio and just sitting out talking with the ladies. I read the Chronicle and get the Chronicle too. I go on my I go on my laptop and I go in under City of Cambridge and I get a lot of news from there, local news.
Local news, I don't follow it too much.
Actually, mostly through the Cambridge Chronicle.
I usually read the Cambridge Chronicle.
I get various newspapers and online newsletters that come to my email.
Which newspapers?
Cambridge Chronicle. And there is, I think it's in City. I forgot.
Scout?
Yes, Scout. Sorry.
Channel 8.
For Cambridge stuff?
For Cambridge. You know, the CCTV channel.
Oh, CCTV.
Yeah.
I read the Cambridge Chronicle. I read the neighbor media from CCTV. I like Saul Tenenbaum a lot. I like his stuff. Those are really my two main local sources. The Globe sometimes covers it, but yeah, I would say those. And actually, social media, Twitter and Facebook, I think are pretty good for getting local stuff.
So I get my local Cambridge news from CCTV, Cambridge Chronicle. I read the Boston Globe. I talk to my neighbors. Best way to get news direct.
I go to Robert Winter's Cambridge Civic Journal every morning. I read the Chronicle. Now I can go online and get it. I go to, what's that one, Day?
Cambridge Day.
Cambridge Day. I look out my window on Broadway and I see all the little kids going back to the library all the time. There's about 20 of them on a rope and we watch them all the time. So we know who goes to the library because looking at my window.
Like what types of stories?
Yeah.
Probably stuff around, things like housing, development, those sorts of things.
When you say housing?
Like affordable housing issues, which I know is a big problem around here.
So are you for or against?
Very much for affordable housing.
Mostly what's happening with living conditions in Cambridge, housing and stuff like that. How politics are run in Cambridge, and just general growth of what the Cambridge area is doing, as far as businesses are concerned.
I think a lot about development, in particular development / gentrification and problems with that.
I like hearing about what's happening with development. neighborhood crime is a concern, so it's not something I want to know about. It's something I should know about. I'm also, I think, kind of off the map on cultural events. There's a lot of stuff that I find out like 2 weeks after it happened that I would have normally gone to.
I like to read a lot of the crime, you know.
Those that have to do with people whose voices have been stolen.
I like hearing stuff about local businesses, just if, you know, like a business closes and like what's going into it.
Which restaurants are opening up in my neighborhood or in Cambridge, and on the flip side, crime.
I'm most interested in stuff that's happening in my immediate neighborhood, like, you know, the small stuff. I like to hear updates on schools.
Oh, I like stories about when children do something very nice, or, you know, I mean, about animals, gardening, you know, where to go to farmers markets, things like that.
Well, I'm terribly interested if my street is being shut off, so I can't get home.
You mean due to Portuguese parades?
Well, or, yeah, anything. Yeah. I don't know. Whatever happens, I'm interested.
Probably local politics and what's happening in North Korea.
I'm really interested in issues of growth and development in Cambridge, and how's our community changing, what's good and what's bad about that, and how can we really make sure that growth happens in a way that's productive and serves all residents in the city.
Well, I like political stories. I like how the city is growing and changing. I love human interest stories. Richard Griffin, I know him well. I like his column occasionally. The editorial, the letters to the editor. I'm not sure I like those letters, things that are printed with no name. I understand why, you know, when you get stuff like that, you have to listen to what they're saying and maybe not get teed off because you know who's saying it.
The stories that interest you the most are stories like the Kensley Project, where you have a group of young men and women from our neighborhood taking leadership, initiative, and really looking to bring their community together to make sure that as we progress as a city, that we have enough opportunities for all the people who live in our city.
To me, the least biased, in some ways more interesting, obviously, source of news is the gossip, because that's where you get the true grit, what's actually happening. It may not be everything that's happening, but it's what's happening in that little place. Gossip's great. Gossip is where the truth is. What is gossip? I mean, it is information. It's no more biased in a way than news that's been that has been purposely biased to sell, to not offend,
At least with gossip, if you know the person that you're talking to, you kind of know their agenda.
Well, that's so true. That's absolutely true. Yes, because you can use your own personal judgment there.
Mhm.
Where with something more official or commercial, you don't really know what's going on in the back room. You don't know what those poor guys and girls trying to sell advertising are going through.
It's weird. This is a strange thing to admit, but more often than not now I'll just look on Facebook and see what people I know are posting about things. If something's going on, somebody will post something. They'll post a link to something. So that's actually a huge source of information for me, so that I don't actually have to go straight to the website of the Boston Globe or whatever it is.
Like, if most people are also getting it from word of mouth, that like it can get skewed on the way.
Right.
On the way to me.
It's very, very easy to link to secondary sources like news sites. Someone will be, outraged at something, and then they'll link to the actual news page about it, and you can read it if you want. Whether the news source is credible or not is up to you.
Do you feel there's enough sources of information to find information about Cambridge in Cambridge?
Not really, but it may be my own fault. It may be just that I'm not really thinking of where to look.
Like for Cambridge?
Yeah.
Probably not for Cambridge. There's a lot. I feel like there's a lot of like Boston area
I think there are, maybe I don't use them as much because I do rely on hearing it from other people.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's Boston.com and like Boston Globe, both report on Cambridge news too, and I think there's a lot of sources. I just don't seek it out often.
But I think overall Cambridge has a lot of news mediums. I think anytime you go to a coffee shop or you go to a convenience store, there are a number of magazines, number of newspapers that you can read to find out news about Cambridge.
What are 3 adjectives you'd use to describe modern day news media?
3 adjectives. Sensationalistic, simplistic, and skewed.
Social. Well, definitely social because of, Facebook and such, but I want to say narrow because the social aspect also means that you're getting most of your news from at least I'm getting most of my news from my friends, which means local sources, which means it's pretty biased. But social also leads into connected in that we can get the opinions of hundreds of thousands of different people across the world and different news sources that are outside of our own local newspaper.
Like fast, not necessarily accurate, and the same.
I think a lot of the news is not accurate, or a lot of the news has nothing to do with what goes on in our neighborhood or even in our city. I really don't care about the kid in Walmart who's been running around for 4 days, and I see it 20 times on every news channel.
Programmed, and I don't mean in a positive sense, that it's just sort of really canned. One-sided.
I'll do sensationalist, biased, or unimportant.
Corporate bias, which covers the whole thing. Corporate bias, racist, misogynistic. I could go on and on, but yeah, I mean, essentially, it's propaganda. Kind of encompasses it all.
I'm as likely to watch Fox as CNN. I like to be able to get both sides of the story. I think they're less interested in news and more interested in sensationalism.
I would say for the mainstream media, I would say boring, repetitive, and sensational. But for the social media and like the local media and public media, I would say more experimental, informative, and interesting.
I feel like one of the things that I miss out a lot on is like events and stuff. Because I'll either hear about them too late, like I'll talk to someone who's like, oh, I just went to this thing, I was like walking through Harvard Square, I saw this and went.
But it wouldn't hurt if we had a regular, maybe weekly, kind of Cambridge news, Cambridge in Review.
On CCTV.
On CCTV.
Is there anything missing in the coverage of Cambridge?
I mean, I think perhaps, maybe more neighborhood type news about just interesting things that are going on. It doesn't have to be something awful or business related necessarily.
Have you heard of neighbor media at CCTV?
No, but I have now.